We'll try it again. Tomorrow's tacos and enchiladas again.
Yeah.
The Russian priest doesn't agree with the war.
So he's off in the Ukrainian shelter.
Yeah.
Go that way. Hell no. Granny, don't listen. Hide and seek.
You think they'll ever give him?
Yeah.
I'm going back to Jennifer's tomorrow.
You are?
Yeah.
Are you glad?
I guess so.
week of Ricky
Yep.
Thursday?
It might be Thursday, I'm not sure.
Puppy.
John wants to know if you want to go out and eat or eat home.
Okay.
I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, it's up to Dad.
Okay.
Ooh. Don't let him. Take the dun 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 out the window. Give me that. Boom, boom. for Jupiter. Get way around slow. Where the hell is your grandpa going?
One day after 2,700 flights were canceled globally, and in the United States alone, more than 5,000 flights were canceled between Thursday and Sunday. Out front now, the anchor of Quest News Business, Richard Quest. Richard, you know the airlines inside and out. I mean, like this are staggering.
In the straw, on it and low.
It's a compliment to those who are stranded or difficulties. Essentially, what has happened is that people have got back travelling faster than anybody thought was going to happen. So that more travellers, more requirement for air travel. The whole system did not gear up enough in time. Now, I know that might sound extraordinary, and we might be saying, well, how could they have not known 2 years ago they were going to need all this?
Can you turn that down just a
But it's a
bit?
complicated business bringing planes that have been stuck in the
I
desert.
want to hear what
Bring
it's
one or two
Just, can you
planes,
turn it down
they
just
brought
2
hundreds, if not
inches?
thousands
Okay.
back. And then you had to bring staff back that you
That's good, that's
because of the
good.
way the schemes all work and the furlough schemes. The net effect is the system now can't cope. It will pick up speed, it will get better, probably not this summer. Anybody who tells you that things are going to be better by midsummer, don't buy or listen to them. It's going to be difficult throughout the summer because demand is so high on the infrastructure systems.
It was stunning, frankly, to hear the United Airlines CEO just there saying, we need the government almost more than ourselves. That's quite a statement. They need government help. Can you explain to people what the government can actually do and how fast?
Yes, we're not talking here about bailouts or anything like that. What he's talking about is the government doing its job. Getting the number of air traffic controllers back to full strength, it's down to 50-60%. Getting infrastructure projects done so that at airports like Newark, there aren't, never mind terminal delays, they're just vast waiting times because of runways and the need for more expenditure. Terminal A, for example, which still needs to be renovated or completed. Wherever you look in the airline industry, you're seeing the result either of a need of change of regulation. Let's just take, for example, the whole business over 5G transmitters near the end of runways. Now, the whole industry came perilously close to basically saying they're going to have to reduce capacity because of these 5G transmitters. That's been solved for now. But you have an industry that now needs to be updated. The planes are updated, the safety is updated. It's the rules, the regulations, the infrastructure, all the bits that make it work. It is beautifully safe, but it is not necessarily efficient. And that's what he's talking about when he talks about government.
So well put, Richard Quest. Thank you. Great interview. Out front next, remarkable images of a 3,400-year-old city that has been unearthed because of an extreme drought.
Why choose proven quality sleep from the Sleep Number 360 Smart Bed? Because it can gently raise your partner's head to help relieve snoring. Ah, that's better. And to help you get almost 30 minutes more restful sleep per night. Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 Limited Edition Smart Bed. Plus 0% interest for 36 months. Ends Monday.
People with plaque psoriasis are rethinking the choices they make, like the shot they take, the sprays they create, or the spin they initiate. Otezla, it's a choice you can make. Otezla is not a cream, it's a pill that treats plaque psoriasis differently. With Otezla,
I got a heart attack.
don't use if you're allergic to Otezla. Otezla
Really?
causes allergic
Okay,
reactions
so
and
I'm
may cause
going
severe
here.
diarrhea, nausea, or
And
vomiting.
here's
Otezla is
him.
associated with
I open the
increased
door.
risk of depression. Tell your doctor
And
if
I'm
your
like,
body's develop. Some people taking Otezla reported weight loss. Your doctor should monitor your weight and may stop treatment. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur. Tell your doctor about your medicines and if you're pregnant or planning to be. Otezla. Show more if
Smells like cotton candy.
Home work. A 12 megapixel lens makes sure your presentation is crystal clear. And smart camera auto pans and zooms to keep you perfectly in frame. Oh, and it syncs with your calendar. Plus, with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and WebEx, you can miss a meeting. And neither will she. Now that's a productive day. Meta Portal. Make working from home work for you.
Lemons. Lemons, lemons, lemons. Look how nice they are. The moment you become an Expedia member, you can instantly start saving on your travels. So you can go and see all those lovely, lemony lemons. You know, you might have and never wonder if you got a good deal. Because you did. Finding the perfect project manager isn't easy. But we found him. He's in Adelaide. Between his color-coordinated sticky note collection and the cutest box you've ever seen. And you can find him right now on Upwork.com. When the world is your workforce, finding the perfect project manager, designer, developer, or whatever you need, comes to right into place. Ready talent can start
I
today
had a
on
gun.
Upwork.com.
Lol.
And go through areas of the world where no one has ever been. Patagonia might be the world from east to Whitetown.
Moderate to severe eczema still disrupts my skin. Despite treatment, it disrupts my skin with itch. It disrupts my skin with rash. But now, I can disrupt eczema with Rinvoq. Rinvoq is not a steroid, topical, or injection. It's one pill, once a day, that's effective without topical steroids. Many taking Rinvoq saw clear or almost clear skin, while some saw up to 100% clear skin. Plus, itch relief, some as early as 1 week. That's Rinvoq relief.
Rinvoq can grow your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections, some fatal, cancers, including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occur. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Disrupt the itch and rash of eczema. Talk to your eczema specialist about Rinvoq.
Learn how Abby can help you save. Anderson Cooper 360. Next on CNN.
Finally tonight, an amazing discovery. A 3,400-year-old city in Iraq revealed in a reservoir after extreme drought. Archaeologists had a field day digging up thousands-year-old ceramic artifacts. The sunken city is believed to date back to the Bronze Age, and it was excavated earlier this year after water levels dropped, allowing its remains to briefly see the light of day. It is now back underwater. Researchers continue to look for clues about who built the city. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Erin is back tomorrow. AC 360 starts now.
Good evening. Tonight, members of the January 6th Committee and their staffs are preparing for the fourth hearing tomorrow. They'll zero in on two key elements of what the committee has called Donald Trump's plan to overturn the election. We'll hear witnesses from Georgia and Arizona testify about pressure they felt from the former president and his allies to decertify President Biden's winnings in those states. We'll also hear perhaps the most detailed account to date of one of the most bizarre elements of the former president's scheme. The attempt, devoid of any legal basis, to get alternate and completely imaginary slates of electors installed in 7 states to swing the election of the former president. And this is what it looked like in Michigan back in December when those fake electors actually showed up at the state house and tried to talk their way past police. There's no such thing. It may seem ludicrous watching that, but according to testimony that we'll hear more of tomorrow, this was part of a multi-pronged scheme by the president and his allies to overturn the results of the election. It is unprecedented in our history. Now, the seriousness of what occurred and the risk being taken by some members of the January 6th committee are important to remember. On Sunday, Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a Republican member of the committee, tweeted a letter he said he'd received at his home. It was addressed to his wife and mentioned how both she and her husband and their child would be executed. He warns it's a vision of what's to come in our politics and in our country.
There is violence in the future, I'm going to tell you. And until we get a grip on telling people the truth, we can't expect any differently.
Over the weekend, Republican Dan Crenshaw, a retired Navy SEAL, was harassed while at the Texas Republican Convention. Media quotes people who say they witnessed several individuals accosting Crenshaw and his staff. At least one used a crude remark coined by a Fox News host to make light of the eye that Crenshaw lost during his service. One female staffer of his was also reportedly pushed aggressively into a pillar. Extremism is on the rise, and some candidates are trying to use it to their advantage. Case in point, Eric Greitens, a former governor of Missouri who's running now for Senate, he's put out an ad that we're not going to play, but we'll show you a still from it. Greitens is shown holding a firearm, talking about going rhino hunting. You can see smoke in the background as well as some sort of commando-type looking people. Rhino obviously is an acronym for Republicans only. He then cocks the gun in the ad. He's next outside the house with armed men in camouflage, and they burst into the home. We'll talk more about bagging a rhino. Now, we should point out that Greitens left office 4 years ago after a report by Missouri State House alleged she subjected a woman to non-consensual sexual activity and violence. He denied the allegations, but he left in disgrace. Then, earlier this year, his ex-wife, who is in a custody battle for their children, alleged in a court document that he was physically abusive toward her and their children. She says she grew so afraid of her former husband that she sought to limit his access to weapons and began sleeping in her children's room out of concern for their safety. He denies those allegations. Now he's trying to mount a political comeback with an ad showing him with a firearm bursting into a house, talking about hunting for Republicans who are not as extreme as I guess he would like them to be. I'm joined now by another member of the January 6th Committee, Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren of California. Congresswoman Lofgren, when you hear your fellow committee member Adam Kinzinger with that threatening letter that he says he received from to his family, it's obviously extremely disturbing. In a larger picture, though, how concerned are you about our inability as a country, it seems, or in our politics, to not give in to this extremism? It seems like the extremism is on the rise, not just in these, kind of physical confrontations, but also just in rhetoric. The extremes get all the attention. The extremes seem to make it impossible to actually get things done.
Well, most people in America don't intend to engage in violence around politics. So I think we need to look at where is the missing leadership here, where elected officials of both parties will stand up and say this type of rhetoric or activity is not acceptable and condemn it. The ad where the candidate is apparently with assault weapons going in to bag so-called rhinos. I haven't heard anybody today from the Republican leadership condemning that. I think it's important that that happen. And I think we've got to get back to the kind of country that we all expect, where you can have a disagreement on a policy issue. It doesn't make the other person that you don't agree with your enemy. It means that you and another American might have a different point of view.
Yeah.
That's the way we need to deal with things.
I want to talk about tomorrow's hearing. It's going to focus on state and local officials who claim they were pressured by members of the Trump campaign, including Rudy Giuliani and the former president himself, to support false states of electors. Are there new details that Americans that we will hear tomorrow?
Yes, as always, there are some things that are known and then some things that I think people will see new. I'm not going to step on the committee. That's why we're going to have the hearing tomorrow to lay out the information that has been collected. But I think it's worth watching, and I think people will learn from it.
Select Committee Chairman Benny Thompson recently said the committee was, in his words, engaging with former Vice President Pence's lawyers. Do you believe there's still a chance that Pence would speak to the committee? Would you support a subpoena in order to get him to testify?
Well, I would love to have him come in. Whether he would or not remains to be seen. We have actually heard and learned a lot because so many of his people came in and spoke very robustly to us. But we could still learn a little more if he came in. At this point, we have to weigh whether if we issue a subpoena, do we end up in a 6-month court fight, if we would get someone to come in. We have to weigh all those issues. But I wish he just would come in. I think it would help us fill out the entire picture, and I think it would be good for our country and therefore good for him.
You said previously the committee would release more information about fundraising efforts by the former president, his campaign, the so-called official election defense fund, that there wasn't such a thing, but it went directly into the former president's super PAC. You're calling it the big ripoff. When is that going to be released? Do you have more you can say of what it is?
Well, the staff is working to put together a document that we can release that will fill out the details, and I'm hoping that will be done in the next few days. There was more interest in this than I had anticipated, and of course in a 2-hour hearing you can't lay out all the information that you've gotten, so we'll fill out a little bit more, I hope, in the next few days.
Congressman Zolofka, I appreciate your time. I want to get
Anytime.
perspective now from U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn, who was attacked by the rioters on January 6th, testified last year. Denver Rigland, a former senior technical advisor to the January 6th committee, former Republican congressman from Virginia, and CNN chief political analyst Gordon Borger. Congressman Rigland, the gross tonnage of all this rhetoric, this kind of extremist rhetoric that we've been hearing, whether it's what we saw on January 6th, the threats faced by Republican officials now like Congressman Kinzinger, this ad from Biden's, what does it say to you about where we are right now and where our politics, our country is heading?
I think that type of extremism is starting to get a little bit baked into certain portions of the GOP. I mean, I saw it really here with the amount of death threats I had after I did the same-sex wedding in August of 2019. And even after my appearance with you on June 1st, we've actually had to shut down our company email. We actually got so many emails that were talking about pedophilia, they were talking about killing people, they were talking about bounties, that at some point my wife and daughter called me in and said, we're getting so many emails now, we need to shut down the link on the website. So Anderson, when you're listening, what's happening to Adam, what's happening to people in the party, what's happening to Democrats, what's happening to all these individuals, it seems like a go-to, that either these type of threats, it's just one of those things that you sort of live with. But we're to a point now, we've seen so much violence that these threats aren't empty, and that's the problem that I have with all of this. And Anderson, at some point, we're going to have some kind of leadership address this. And right now, you're not seeing it. If Eric Reitens can go out and do a video about hunting rhinos, with assault weapons or kicking in doors, you have a bunch of door kickers. Since he's a former Navy SEAL, the issue is he's talking to live-action role players. He's talking to LARPers, and any idiot can pull a trigger. Any idiot can do something stupid. So the problem is that you have people that could be being radicalized because of this type of sort of ridiculous buffoonery, and somebody who maybe through polling thought that the Second Amendment was so important that he needs to threaten other individuals.
Yeah, I mean, look, we had a guy try to, according to authorities, kill a Supreme Court justice at his home. Gloria, what does it say to you that Adam Kinzinger, Dan Crenshaw, two young, very conservative military veterans that kind of figures whom the Republican Party once upon a time would have embraced and celebrated, and understandably so, that they are targets of such vitriol?
I think I can add Liz Cheney to that list. I mean, look, the Republican Party right now is in a very dark, dark place. And I think what's going on is that the leadership of the Republican Party, such as it is holding its breath because they don't want to do anything to rock the boat so they can win over the Congress in the midterm elections. They figure they're going to control the House, they have a good shot at controlling the Senate, and they don't want to do anything that shows the American public how split and divided and angry parts of the party are. And so, Congresswoman Lofgren was saying, where's the leadership? Why aren't we hearing from them? I think she asked a very good question. You need to hear from the leadership on both sides when things like this happen. And we are not hearing it right now on the Republican side because they're just waiting to take control of the Congress, get what they want from the American electorate, and then maybe they'll start to deal with this.
The problem is, Officer Dunn, as you know all too well, this isn't something you kind of control. Once this gets out of hand, it's not as if suddenly political leaders can say, okay, now that we're in power, we're not going to do this stuff anymore. You have people starting to attack their own. You have you know, folks in the Republican Party in Texas going after Dan Crenshaw, you know, calling him a globalist. You know, it's to be this far past January 6th, Officer Dunn, and to still have this political climate. Does it concern you?
It's very concerning. You got to think about it. Nobody, Dan Crenshaw, Adam Kinzinger, nobody, Liz Cheney deserves the threats on their lives. The threats on just because they have a specific policy view or disagreement with somebody. And to earlier in the segment, you showed something about Adam Kinzinger talking about that's why it's important to get the truth out. The truth doesn't matter to a lot of these extremists. They don't care. So the truth doesn't matter to these people. That's why it's Gilbert. Yeah, that's why it's very important for the Justice Department to do their job and do their roles. There's so much only Congress can do. There's so much only law enforcement can do. The Justice Department has to step in and do their job now. With the facts matter to the Justice Department. It seems like a lot of the American public, or at least the extremists, don't really care about the actual facts about it because they'll just say they're lying. So the truth doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it just falling upon deaf ears.
Congressman Reagan, when the hearings reconvene tomorrow, what do you think the committee needs to accomplish, and how important do you think are the witnesses from Georgia, which was so central to the former president's effort to overturn the election?
I think they're very important, and you heard Zoe earlier. This is going to be a very important hearing. I think it's not only those Georgia officials. I think it's also every layer of individuals that were involved in pushing an alternate electric scheme or trying to pressure people to do things that they knew were out of bounds or illegal. And I think we can talk about Raffensperger, we can talk about Gable, we can talk about all these individuals. But I think what the committee is going to surprise people with are the number of people that were involved at every level. So you're not just talking about high-level officials. You're also talking about people in the specific parties. You're talking about activists. I think what people need to understand, again, is that one word, and Anderson, I've said it many times, people need to look for coordination. They need to look at where it's happening at every layer. They need to see if President Trump is aware that coordination was happening. And they need to look at that second layer right underneath of President Trump and how many individuals they were contacting. And then you got to look at the documentation and the data that supports it. So tomorrow, again, I think the committee is going to surprise the American people with the evidence that they have, but how they actually have interleaved the data to give a complete story of how these individuals were pressured and how these schemes came to be.
Gloria, I mean, if one of the goals, directly or indirectly, when you talk to build a case for the justice to prosecute the former president or some of his allies for the events of January 6th, how could tomorrow advance that effort?
Well, I think it's going to be very important because what you always look at is what was the president's intent. And when you talk about what went on in Georgia, for example, or what went on with the big slave electors, what I think the committee is going to try and show us all tomorrow is that the president not only knew about this illegal activity, but he was involved in the planning and in the pressuring of state officials to do what he wanted. Remember the infamous phone call with Brad Raffensperger just finding these, 11,000 plus votes, etc. And you're going to find a president of the United States who was very involved in planning a coup. And in great detail, I think, that we have not seen before. But again, it goes to his intent. What was his intent? To stay in office no matter what.
Officer Dunn, you tweeted recently that people on the network spend time attacking you. You said that it doesn't really bother you anymore. Did the level of vitriol after you started talking about your experiences in January 6th, did it surprise you? Because I think people who have not experienced that kind of level of vitriol, it's hard to kind of imagine the impact it can have on somebody.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around it. Nobody goes in expecting that somebody's going to hate somebody who's doing their job and doing what they think is right and serving their country. It's hard to imagine that somebody can hate you for doing that or speaking out that, what's happening out there is wrong. It's hard to imagine that, but once you realize that, hey, this is the country that we're in, and a lot of the extremists, and like the previous congresswoman just said, it's not a lot of people, it's just the extremists, they're the loudest, and they take up the most attention. But the majority of Americans aren't like that. Just the ones that stand out the most are the extremists. Yeah, it bothers you. It used to bother you, but you accept that there are more good people out there than bad ones. And you focus your time and attention and energy on those people.
Yeah, very done. I really appreciate it. As always, Denver Riggin with thanks, Gloria Borger as well. Still to come tonight, new video evidence reviewed by Austin Media that may change our understanding of just how well armed police were when they initially arrived at the mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Could also undercut, once again, some of the narrative that police and authorities have given about their response. We'll have a live report from Uvalde next. Also tonight, an update on those missing Americans who went to fight for Ukraine, now believed to be held by Russia or Russian-backed separatists, their status, and who may be holding them. There's a monster problem, and our hero needs solutions. So she starts a mural to brainstorm. Shoot it, suggests the scientist. So they shoot it. Back to the mural board. Dave says, feed it. And Dave feeds it. Just then, our hero has a breakthrough. Shoot it. Camera. Shoot a movie. And so our hum team saves the day by working together. A mural.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even at the sides.
Dad, we're going to the Bible.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com. You're looking great.
I'm a carousel now.
But your fungus damage.
Carousel starts working in just 2 days.
Carousel starts improving the appearance of fungus-damaged toenails in just 2 days. Your new move?
True story.
Carousel, 2 days. Finding the perfect developer isn't easy. But at Upwork, we found her. She's in Prague, between the ideal cup of coffee and a truly impressive synthesizer collection. And you can find her right now on Upwork.com. All is your workforce, finding the perfect project manager, designer, developer, or whomever you may need tends to fall right into place. Find top-rated talent you can start today on Upwork.com. Why is Roger happy? It's the little things Carvana does, like giving him a real offer in 2 minutes. And Carvana's customer advocate picking up his car at Frosty 10 a.m. Then paying him right there on the spot. We'll drive you happy. Carvana.
Sorry, I'm late. Oh boy, you're classic. Wrong, then. Is it on a green? I was just looking for my ball. 19th hole, Sam Adams thumbnail. There we go. Yes, got it. I'm on first take.
Yeah, let's go! On a trip, book a Priceline. You save more, so you can woo more. Priceline, every trip is a big deal.
Selling a home is expensive and stressful. So we created our Smart Seller system to sell your home for top dollar and save you thousands in commissions.
I was amazed in the fact that my house sold in 1 day. Ideal agents saved me in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000 in commission. The process was as easy as it gets. They are the #1 way to sell your house.
Our service is free, available nationwide, and there's zero obligation. Call us today or visit idealagent.com. Let it rain, Randy! That's how you make like it never even happened. Serve bro.
Lemons, lemons, lemons.
Lemon.
When you become an Expedia member, you can instantly start saving on your travels. So you can go and see all those lemons for less. The future is,
Wait, I forgot my sneeze, Dad.
maybe this now we're in the present.
Not
Future. The all-electric Chevy Bolt EUV with available Super Cruise for hands-free driving. Here.
Do Facebook testing?
Find new answers, find new roads.
We have some details tonight on the police response to mass shooting at Robb Elementary School. A new video that could change how we come to understand the initial police response, the shooter, and why it took more than an hour, despite repeated 911 calls, for help from inside the classroom before a border patrol unit stormed the class and killed the gunman. The According to the Austin the Austin American Statesman, officers arrived at Uvalde School with rifles, ballistic shield, 9 minutes after the gunman. It means, in theory, police stormed the classroom 9 minutes after this started, not 70-plus minutes. Tony Plahetsky, excuse me, Tony.
It's
Plahetsky,
right up
yes.
there. Like,
Plahetsky, good. From the Austin American Statesman joins me. We
Ooh,
just getting on right now. What can you tell us about these documents and the images that you're reporting about?
Well, Anderson, of course, this is all a huge investigation into what happened that awful day. But one of the things that is so striking about this image that we were able to obtain late today is that it shows in the minds of at least some investigators reviewing what happened that day is that authorities had adequate firepower and adequate protective equipment to take down the shooter long before they did. As you mentioned, they arrived at the scene. Several officers did early on. This photograph was taken at 10:52 a.m. It's a screen grab from video from inside that school. Of course, we now know that the gunman entered the elementary school around 11:33.
Go, you can't lose the
But
ball.
Anderson, 58 minutes passed from the time we see these officers in that video, in that screen grab, to when they ultimately reached that classroom and took down the shooter.
So, we're related.
If I killed both of them at the same time, it would be a lot better.
What it is we're looking at here, we're just getting the image now. This is the hallway inside the school. On the right, it looks on the left where it looks like there's a police officer, and on the right, is that a shield sitting there?
That's exactly right. On the lower sort of right-hand part of the photograph. And then, of course, you see an officer with a rifle there as well. I think one thing that is also so haunting about what we're seeing in this photograph as well, Anderson, is that this is the first time we are actually seeing the inside of Wild Elementary School, a school that's very similar to the ones I know many of us went to across the country, and how in that very moment, in these few minutes, that school was
somebody had respawned probably upstairs.
I
hope they don't respawn down.
Unimaginable massacre.
Yeah. So let me just zero in here. So the time here is 11:52:28. How long? I know you said this, but just repeat it. How long into the shooting is this?
So the gunman walked into the building at 11:33 in the morning. That is the time that he walked into the elementary school. There were calls, obviously, for police officers to descend on the scene.
I think we're gonna
One
clear
of
it,
the things
baby,
that is
baby.
so striking, and Anderson, I want to point out that much of this information is going to be made public in a Senate hearing here in Austin today. But one of the things that is so striking is that we also have obtained a transcript of a phone call that the school police made to the Uvalde City Police.
45 minutes. Thank you, Onoeo, for letting me play this. I'll see you in the next one.